Our next picture is going to be our team. We started off with 24 and actually had 22 make it to the field. This was a great team, and because of prayer and because of just great attitude and purpose in the hearts everything went extremely smooth. And so we're going to be sharing with you a little bit about our trip this morning, but I'd like just to share a scripture that I think kind of frames everything that we've done so far in Peru. Coming from the first book of the Bible, Genesis chapter 12, God spoke to Abram, and he said to him, "Get out of your country, from your family, and from your father's house to a land that I will show you. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great. And those that bless you will be blessed, and those that curse you will be cursed. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed." How far-reaching a statement that God made to Abram. He could not possibly have seen what his obedience would lead to. But because he was obedient, God unfolded a new people, a peculiar people, out of that bloodline, to the point that we now had Jesus Christ come to the earth through that bloodline. And it says in Galatians in chapter 3, verse 29, it says, "If you are Christ, then you are Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise." And so we don't realize sometimes out of the act of our obedience where everything will lead, but because of your obedience and because of the team's obedience to answer a call in Peru, we are seeing unfolded before our own eyes in just 6 years God's plan. When we first met Alex Cotrina at the airport and he was facilitating our team for 3 years, we had no idea what kind of vision God put in this young man's heart and his team. But his vision from God is to share the gospel with the whole nation of Peru and disciple that nation for the Lord. And he's going about it in many ways. He's working with children, he's working with teenagers, he's working with college students, and he's working with pastors to share the vision and help them be empowered to do the Lord's work by training up and discipling young people and old people. And we've come alongside that to build 2 very important buildings for his ministry. But along with that has come relationships to now our ladies were given an opportunity to do a women's conference, and they're going to come up and share about that. And we were also able to do work in Independencia, which is a church that we worked on 2 years ago. It all started with a dream by Pastor Alex that one day he would have a facility to minister to the high school students across the street. And that great faith that they had to apply, we helped them buy the property that now has a 2-story building on it. And they used this building to do all the different phases of the ministry in Independencia. We've also helped them build the building now that has a roof on it in Caraballo. And so, ladies, come on up and share about the conference. The picture you now see is Pastor Alex Cotrina, and he and Susan Halawicki, the Peruvian missionary down there, are doing an orientation for our group in the Independencia Church.
This was my 3rd trip to Peru. Last year when I was there, Alex said, "We're going to do a women's conference." And I said, "Okay." And I was the primary speaker there. I didn't have anyone else to work with me. And so for 2 nights, I taught. And the 3rd night, he said, "You and Mark are going to speak on marriage." I said, "We are?" So that day, I stayed home and sequestered myself in the room and thought, "Oh, Lord, what am I going to say to these people?" And so it worked out, and we did. So this trip, Alex said, "We're going to do the 2nd women's conference." So this has become an annual thing. And I prayed, and I said, "Lord, last year I was left there by myself. Will you just give me some women?" So I began to pray about it, and God answered. And I had 3 other women step up. So we went into, we had 3 nights, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday evening, and we all took 2 letters, and we taught 8 godly principles for living life to the fullest. And it allowed us the first afternoon before we started our conference. We had the pleasure of sitting with some ladies that were leaders of other churches in the area that were coming to the conference. And I asked Alex, and Alex, well, here we are, but Alex was the young pastor in the yellow shirt that you saw in the prior photo. And I said, Alex, would you ask these women to share a little bit about their lives with us? And we'll share a little bit about our lives. And that was a very intimate time for us. And after we did that, one of the ladies, older ladies there, spoke up and she said, we don't do this here. We don't share this kind of stuff. And it was very unusual for them to do that. So, but I did notice as we progressed into our teaching on the third night that the women, there are a few women that will bond together and they'll help one another. And I think it's important that you know, yeah, we were down there to serve and we did disciple and we taught. But as on every mission trip, we end up coming back seeing that God is teaching us something too. And with that, I want to say that there was a commonality amongst women. The needs are all the same, whether you're in Peru or you're in the United States. They're hardworking women. They're struggling with jobs. They're struggling with children. They're struggling in their marriages. It's a hard life, and as most of you that have been married for a long time know, if you've hit a financial difficulty or you have needs for your children, it puts a real strain on a marriage. And so that was common. I mean, as the book of Ecclesiastes says, there's nothing new under the sun. No matter where I've traveled in the world with women and their needs, they love their husbands, they love their children, but they carry a real load. And in Peru, you see that a lot. So I just want to say that I had shared with the group before we left, we had a little round table at Alex's house and how the trip had worked and what we could see. There was a song that I had heard about 20 years ago, and it was, have you seen Jesus, my Lord? And you know, while I was down there, I did. Because when you look in the work and in the faces of those people, you can see the Lord at work. And so I just want you all to know that God is still working no matter where we go, and He's blessing. And I thank you again for your prayers and your support, and the families down there appreciate it as well.
Well, thanks again for your folks' support. This was my first year. My name is Cindy. This was my first year going to Peru, and during our meetings, group meetings beforehand, I was trying to wrap my head around not only how to pronounce the names of the towns that they've been doing the projects, but where we were going, what we were going to be doing. And until I actually got there and saw the sites and interacted, then I could comprehend a little bit better. But overall, the team, we had 3 different areas: Yaramoguas, Caraballo, and Lima. And the ladies, fortunately, were able to work with the guys on one job site, Caraballo, at the church where Pastor George is, for a few days. But then with the travel and the distance, the conflicts later, because we had to get ready for the conference, we weren't participating in a later part of it, but we still had our conference information to go through. We had prepared our speeches prior to going on the trip, but then as we got there, interacted with the families and so forth, and the ladies more specifically, God was talking to us and seeing where their needs were and what they needed to hear and what we needed to share with them. So kind of things change as things go on, but I was very blessed to be there. The Peruvian people are very friendly and open. They're very eager to learn, eager to share. And even though they said they don't sit around and do that, the one day that we had the group of lady leaders and pastors there, and once we started opening up, and then they realized, okay, we can relate to these folks. We're all in the, we all share similar problems and so forth. that was a huge step. So I'm just hoping that the conference touched their hearts to support each other, because as Francie mentioned, that the lives can be difficult for the women there. So a lot of them maybe are, single to the fact the husbands have to go somewhere else to get work, and then the woman's left behind with the children. So a lot of needs there, a lot of needs here, obviously, too. But because I've been blessed and others have been blessed, we want to share that with those folks. We have a lot of resources here in the United States, but a lot of times those folks don't hardly have anything. So the people we were sharing with definitely needed the encouragement and outreach, and we just hope that that grows like wildfire, like Pastor Alex's passion. His passion is incredible. Until you meet that man, it's just amazing how a huge step of faith and his walk in Christ is just very impressive and very humbling for me. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Well, this is my second trip. Last year I was in Yuramaguas. This time I stayed in Lima. We did get to work with the guys. We learned to tie steel. I even bent steel. Whoa. But as we prepared, it is pretty amazing the themes that came up in all four speeches, that we gave, or teachings that we did. And one of the scriptures that we commonly shared was Jeremiah 29:11. That says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." In Care by Yield, there are a lot of single moms. And being a single mom, I kind of understood where they're coming from. But I had family to help. I had friends to help. I had big brothers, my own, and those that decided they'd be my big brothers, that, if they needed to come beat somebody up, they would, for me. But these ladies didn't have any of that, and so they are, they're just amazing women, their resilience and how they try to, their hardest to take care of their children. And so that church is just such a blessing to them, to help them along that path and to help train up their children in the way of the Lord. So it was pretty amazing, and I'm very thankful for Sol, our interpreter. She even started to get the hang of that Southern wit. So, but I'm ready to go back next year.
Thank you, Sherry. I'd like to show you a few pictures of the work now. Our work was very comprehensive in that we worked in 4 areas. This is out in Yuramaguas, where our team worked there to continue to build facilities that one day we believe is going to be a residence home for the children that have been awarded by the government to the clinic. And so Susan Holowicki's work is many-fold. Partly it's to the Chiwetel people, and originally it was set up to be a pre- and postnatal clinic for high-risk pregnancy women. And they minister to a lot of families that come in that are struggling. The mortality rate for childbirth out in the villages is 50%, that either the mother or the child dies. So it's a very needed facility, but through that they've opened the door to discipling young men that are coming into the tribes. They've identified nutritional deficiencies, so they've started a program where now they're putting dairy cows into the tribal settings. There are just many things that are going on through this work, but you're getting a flavor of what our team did. You can see it was very hot down there, extremely hot, and they were very diligent. They got a lot of work done. They got the columns formed and poured, foundations put in. The way they mix concrete down there is universal to all these countries. They mix it on the ground, and they don't have any long shovels in that country. Believe me, we went looking, and we couldn't find a hoe with a long handle. Everything is this short little shovel, so you're always bending over working, and it's always putting a strain on your back. But these guys don't let anything bother them. They just love the kids, and you can see that's what it's all about down there in the clinic. Is these are the children that have been awarded to the clinic, and most of them came in. I think you remember seeing the pictures of how badly some of these children, their condition was. But these guys just love these kids, and our whole team, when it goes down there, falls in love with these children that now look forward to the North Americans coming to visit with them. All these children have a story. But now they're one family. They go to school. They walk to school. They have uniforms. They have loving people that are there at the clinic 24/7 that feed and nurture, read to them, take care of them. This is the work now in Caraballo. There's our happy team and hard-working team on the bus every morning at 7:30. We took our meals out at Caraballo. The ladies of the Caraballo and the Independencia Church came out and cooked for us every day. Some of those women had to travel 2 hours to get there, but they cooked a meal for us, a big meal. This is our team getting ready to get into action. This is, we're surveying the work that we're going to be doing. These are the streets of Caraballo. Anybody want to move there? Always many children, always interested in what we're doing there in their community. The first thing we had to do is clear the rubble out, prepare the foundations. Next step, of course, is tying steel, and this is where our ladies got involved. And our men, you can see Cindy was just shoveling there. Here's Sherry tying steel with Thomas. Cindy on the wheelbarrow. These weren't posed photos, by the way. These ladies really were doing all this work. This is what the building looked when we got there, and of course all the piles to your right are piles that we had to put outside in order to start the work. Typical life of some of the people living there. This is, hold on this one for just a second, Bill. This is such an incredible thing. This lady is so devoted to these kids that she came in one afternoon. It was a scheduled Bible study, and we were working, but nothing was going to hold back her from doing that Bible study in that building. And so we worked around her, and those kids had amazing focus. I see this one young boy to the left. He's kind of looking at what's going on, but most all those kids are just trained on her. And the last day that we were there, she also came in and did a breakfast for the children and did a 2-hour session with them. And she's so amazing. She's so incredibly dedicated to these kids. She starts off with a song, then she does a Bible story, then she does Bible story illustrations and coloring, then she does another song. She prays with them, and we're running saws, we're doing all kinds of stuff. You know, those kids never missed a beat. I mean, I looked because I wanted to see during prayer time whether they were watching us or all their heads were bowed. I mean, it's just, these kids, the focus, they're so used to dealing with distraction in their life that there was nothing for us to be there working, and yet they were going on. And we had the privilege, Manny and I did, to speak to this group at the very end, and we told them why we came to Caraballo. We came because Jesus loved us first, and that's why we were here, is to help build a building that they could continue a lifelong relationship with the Lord of the universe and their personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And this teacher she was so happy, and she thanked us, and she told the children, you know, that we just weren't people that were visiting here or paid to work. We were here because Christ was in our hearts, and we had a love for them like Christ has a love for us. So you can see we set some columns, some beams over there on the right-hand side, tied some more steel. This is very interesting. We had a big boulder in the way that we had to get out of the way, and it's granite. And so we hired these guys to come in at nighttime after we left the site, and they burned rubber tires and cracked this granite boulder and got it out of the way for us. That's how they do things there. No equipment. I mean, isn't that ingenious that they'd figure out how to do that? There's Derry on the run. We didn't let anybody walk on this site. Tying some more steel, getting ready to put up our columns. There's our bus that we had all week. These are not coffins, although that some people thought they were. They are column forms that once we poured the foundation, had the steel sticking up, we wrapped the columns around and poured those with concrete. There we are setting them, and you can see our bathroom. It's on site this year. We didn't have to go up the street to go to the bathroom. There's our girls. We want to make sure we are the right distance off the wall. And here's a group picture. Can you see the guy with the beanie cap on? Well, if you all remember me showing pictures last year, this guy helped us out last year too. And it was like a reunion having him come back with his crew. And so these guys, you can see the piles of rock. We poured concrete for 2 days on this site. We poured the foundations first and then had to come back and pour the columns. And that's what we're doing in this picture. And then because it's seismic foundation, we have to throw big rocks into the foundation. This man on the right is Nestor. He's a contractor, and his daughter and wife are very active in the Caraballo Church. His daughter is 15 years old, and now Pastor Alex and his team are helping this family educate their daughter. She's got to take English and become proficient at it before she can go to medical school. That's her dream, and she's been with them since she's been a baby, and she's a dance team leader in their Christian productions. And this is Pastor George. He's the pastor of the Caraballo Church. This young man came from Arizona to join our team this year. We're boxing up some columns. You can see we've already poured the foundation, put up the column. This was a posed photo. You really use levels down there. And now we're pouring the columns. Neil Davis along with Manny Bolanos, who Manny's going to speak to us in just a minute. You can see us taking shape. We had to build a knee wall and plash this wall, and then we would build a single slope roof. Moving on. We did a tie beam in the front of the building, which wasn't there when we started. Set our beams. Framed up another knee wall. Did some steel adjustment. Began framing the roof, and you can see the community up above us there. This town is transforming. Now that they started bringing in power, water, and sewer, they're building all kinds of new buildings. This economy has a 4.5 rate of growth per year, so it's a full employment economy, and they're building all over the country. There's our bus with our roofing material. This is one of the last days we're wiring it up. You can see we've got the roof on, and we're running the electric. This is the building when we left it, with a roof on it. The front entry formed and poured up, ready for the front doors that were being fabricated while we were down there. The windows are all open. You can see Larry and Thomas Conley finishing up on the electric, set a little box there. We formed up an office inside, which will also serve as a place for George and his wife, who minister in Caraballo, so they can spend the night, because lots of times they finish up late. It will save them from leaving and having to go back home at night. They can stay there. This is a church that we had the privilege of attending on the last morning of being part of this service, and this pastor now is training with Pastor Alex, so that he can develop the leadership skills to train his young people. We were leaving Saturday, and the reason I took this photo is I saw this guy. This is where we bought our milled material, our beams, our rafters, our purlins. And as we're driving by, he saw our bus, and he waved to us. And if it wouldn't have been for this man who ran the mill, he told us that he would have our beams, our purlins, and our rafters ready on Wednesday morning at 11:30. And when we got there, everything was all laid out and cut, just like he said. We were so grateful for this man's diligence. We told him what we were doing. We were only in the country for a few days, and he said, "I will have this ready for you." And he really blessed us. There's part of his operation. This is the group of ladies that cook for us every day, and 2 days a week they would stay there, and they were teaching this lady how to crochet. These were the 3 ladies that waited on us and cooked for us. And the very last day at Alex's, up on the rooftop, they did a barbecue for us, and it was delicious. A little girl at Caraballo. Another one. There's Parker. This is his second year, and I'm sorry Parker's not here to give his testimony, but Pastor Alex said, in my mind, I didn't understand why this young person came last year. Why did he want to come? What is God's purpose in this young man coming? He's got a heart for these kids, and everywhere we go, he makes friends with these kids. In 5 minutes' time, he's got a group of children his own age or younger around him, and it's just amazing the kind of ambassador that he is. But this year, we finally discovered why he was coming. Pastor Alex says, God answered my question. Pastors, the reason that Parker is coming is because he's the next generation that will be giving out the Word of God. And God is preparing him to be that person. In case any of you are interested in a 2-story house, we make you a good deal on this one in Caraballo. It has all the advantages of outdoor plumbing. This is your local chicken shop in Caraballo. Just if you want a good dose of salmonella, we can get it for you. Don't worry about anything. This guy can take care of it. All right. Manny, would you come and share?
Well, first of all, I just want to say what a joy it is to be here this morning and to be able to share about this mission trip. I think Mark and Francie have already covered exactly what went on and talked about the things that we did. And so what I wanted to share with you was, like Francie mentioned, that on Sunday we sat in a circle and we were asked to share about our time there and what we had seen or what had more or less impressed us. And I remember thinking at that moment that, I had seen something and I had joy in my heart because of it, but I didn't know how to express it. In other words, what kind of joy was that? And also the other thing was, what does it mean? So what I began to do right then and there that Sunday was to start praying that the Lord would show me some scriptures that would explain to me what kind of joy that was and what it meant to be there. And so that's what I want to share with you this morning. When Mary, the mother of Jesus, found out that this is the passage that the Lord led me to, found out that Jesus was coming, or that Jesus was there, in fact. This is what she said in Luke 10:24. Well, this is the next. Well, if you look up Luke 1:47 through 51, it'll say what Mary said, and she said things like, "My soul magnifies the Lord." And when I thought of that, I thought about how the singing today was magnifying the Lord. And that's what she felt, and that's the kind of joy that you feel when you're down there. And then another passage that I was led to was Luke 10:24, where it says, "Blessed are the eyes which see the things that you see. For I tell you that many prophets and kings have desired to see those things which you see, and have not seen them, and to hear those things which you hear, and have not heard them." So when I thought of the word special, and how this is special, what the Lord is doing in Peru, He led me to these verses that describe what it is. And when you think about that, you realize you really can't express it yourself. The fact that, and it goes along, I think, with what Mark said from Genesis, where the Lord comes and He makes a promise. And, while we were working with all those children around us, Mark said to me, go tell that lady that we want to say a few words before we leave, or before she leaves. Tell her not to dismiss the children. So we did, and one of the things that we said to them, that Mark already mentioned, was that Jesus had sent us to tell them about his love. And the other thing, of course, I'm paraphrasing what they said. The lady said, I want to say something too. And what she said, if I recall correctly, was that she said, one day you all are going to come back here and you're going to see these children, and some of them are going to be, 15, 16 years old, whatever, and you're going to see the work that the Lord has done in their hearts. And I think that's what these trips reveal to us, how God is alive, and he came, and when he came, he brought hope, and he brought, like the song we were singing this morning, he brought the light, and that light continues to shine. And it's not a one-time thing when you go on these mission trips. It's not 2 weeks ago when we were in Peru. That wasn't the end of it. It's something that's going to live for a long time, just like today Jesus is still alive and still sending his children to tell of his light. So that's what I finally understood, the joy that it is to be sitting in a circle and talking about what the Lord has done in the lives of these people. It's something that's going to live forever. And when we say forever, that's what it really means. And also when we think about these folks and about going back and things like that, we think of that other song that we sang this morning that was from Philippians 1:6, where it talks about how he who began a good work, he's going to be faithful to finish it. And that's why these mission trips happen, I believe, because the Lord is alive and he's still showing his light to the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Manny. Sometimes men aren't real good about communicating everything that's in their heart. And so I think that it's important that maybe I share something with you. What triggers our heart for the men and women that go on this? And I think we all go back to our salvation experience. And I just realized how diligent God was to keep putting witnesses in my life. And as fast as he would send them, I would reject them. God even gave me a roommate in college for 2 years that witnessed to me the whole time. Great love, great grace. I never accepted any of his invitations. God continued to reach out, and God finally put somebody in my life, I guess, at the right time. And maybe your story is exactly the same as mine. But we see how God never forsakes us or leaves us. He never quits pursuing us with his great love. And I think that to a great extent, that's what motivates every one of us to do anything in Christianity, is because we realize what great lengths God went to provide us salvation. And I don't think that there's any trip too far, any circumstances too great that we shouldn't surrender to. And sometimes I think about it in my own life, and I think about, well, Lord, what do I need to work on here? What's keeping me back from being an effective witness with this person? How can I win this person for your love? And I think that that's what embodies and motivates and is behind all the mission outreaches and every good work that is produced out of this church. But as you and I both know, you can send 22 people, but if you don't send them with prayer support and finances and real heart, then you've sent a team out by themselves. And we weren't by ourselves. And God put it in our heart to pray for 8 weeks and to get as many people to help us pray for singular topics for 8 weeks before we left. And some of the topics that we prayed on was, number one, that we would not only have the complications removed in our team and get the finances, but that God would bring great unity to our team. And God did that. And I've been on many teams, but I have to say that this team was the smoothest team I've ever been on. When you have 22 people in a group, it is very difficult people to move as one. And so being on time for 22 people at every event, it's hard to do. But God accomplished this. It's hard to get 22 personalities together and not have conflict, and we had none. It's hard to get 22 people together and keep them strong and rested and energized, even though we're getting up early in the morning, eating strange food, sleeping in noisy conditions, riding and living in very polluted environment, and yet God gave everybody heart, energy, determination. It was so incredible. And all these things were prayed for. We prayed for favor with government. We prayed for logistics, and you see how that man produced our materials on time. You see how people cooperated with us so that we could get the mission accomplished. We even went to a concrete place late in the day one day. I went with Nestor, our contractor, and it was on a Saturday afternoon, and they had already closed up. But we desperately needed more gravel, rock, and Portland cement. And Nestor talked to the owner of the company, and he kept pointing at me and saying, these North Americans have come. They're only going to be here a few days. Would you please help us? And finally, the lady said, I would be glad to help you, but I have no driver. And there's a big dump truck outside. I don't know how many gears it had, and I don't even know if it had any brakes on it. And Nestor kept pointing at me and said, don't worry, this guy over here can drive it. So all things are possible on this trip. You just gotta flow with it. But I just have to say that Lord is so good, and I wish I could impart to you everything that I feel and everything that I learn on these trips, which is impossible, so you're just going to have to come on one with us. Thank you much for your support. God bless you.